The four Yonkos are the four most powerful pirates in the New World, who exert an immense amount of influence on territories and islands in the New World. But apart from allies and territories and crews, one of the reasons why they can function on such a large scale is because of the individual strength of their captain. For the most part, the Yonkos are mostly known for being the strongest fighters in the verse, reaching levels where normal logic no longer applies, and I think it's very fair to say that the Yonkos are typical or outliers in the One Piece verse, whereas they have things that the average Joe doesn't have, and also things that are also unique to the individual. And today we're going to be diving into what makes each Yonko so powerful. And in most cases, I believe that there is one or two elements that pushes them to the level that is at the very peak of the verse. And without these things, I don't think that they would be comparable to the other Yonkos or be at that level. Now let's start with Blackbeard, given that he's kind of recognized to be the weakest of the Yonko right now, and also because he's new to the rank and hasn't hit his peak in terms of his true potential, because we can all agree that Blackbeard is eventually going to become extremely overpowered, where he has a good chance to win against the other Yonkos in a 1v1. And one of the key elements that makes him someone who could eventually become the strongest character in the series is his abnormal body, as stated by Marco in Marineford. And this is sort of the foundation of his strength. He has a body that allows him to intake multiple devil fruit abilities and use it as he wills. And it has been stated that in the entire history of the One Piece world, no one has ever eaten 2 devil fruit abilities. So what Blackbeard is doing is groundbreaking and something that's never happened before, which could mean that he found some sort of loophole in the devil fruit system. Because we know that once a user tries to eat a second devil fruit, the user would die. Probably because the human body cannot handle 2 devil souls or something of that nature. But again, Blackbeard has supposedly found a way around that. And my guess is that the Yami Yami no Mi plays a role in all of this as well, because we know it's the only fruit in the series that is able to interact with the abilities of other devil fruit users. Apart from its ability to negate the powers of other fruits, it's very safe to say that Blackbeard's darkness fruit plays a huge role into all of this, because we do know that Blackbeard spent 20 years searching for this fruit specifically, because it is more than likely a catalyst that allowed him to ascend to the level of the Yonko. And from what we're seeing, Blackbeard seems to want the strongest type of each fruit, with the possibility of him getting a third one that is probably or most likely going to be in the Zone class. So he has the strongest Logia in a sense that he's able to negate the powers of other devil fruits, and then he has the strongest Paramecia, a quick fruit, and people speculate that he would probably get a mythical Zone as his third to complete the ultimate devil fruit trifecta. And this is very hard to envision how immensely overpowered Blackbeard would be. Now, mind you, this is going with the fact that he probably also has Armament Haki, Observation, and very likely Conquerors. So in terms of potential, he has the highest in the series, and his battle against Shanks might show us a glimpse of that. But the real question is, can he reach that peak of potential of obtaining everything in its advanced level? Probably not. And Oda seems to have implemented a weakness that can be exploited when it comes to Blackbeard's personality, and that is his overconfidence, whereas he feels that he's become too powerful and untouchable, which leaves him guardless in fights and battles sometimes. And when that happens, he usually underestimates his opponents. And with him possibly getting this third devil fruit, that would just boost his confidence even more. Obviously for the right reasons, because he's becoming stronger, but also for the wrong ones as well, because he would start taking things more carelessly. And his encounter with Magellan, where Magellan pretty much soloed his crew mix, is very evident, and as well as his encounter with Whitebeard during Marineford, where Blackbeard thought that by nullifying Whitebeard's devil fruit power, that would make him helpless. But we saw how that turned out for Blackbeard. And I think this could be setting up the idea of how he's going to lose to Luffy, whereas he underestimates Luffy and overestimates himself, and loses because of that. The confidence that got him to where he is could ultimately be the thing that could be his downfall. Now, Blackbeard seems to be heavily obsessed with devil fruits, where he's even made a whole crew who hunts down devil fruit users for their ability, and perhaps you might get a backstory as to why that is, why he values them that much. Granted, devil fruit abilities does make you stronger, but to Blackbeard it seems to be much more than that, so I'm very interested in his backstory. Now we move on to Big Mom, and Big Mom is a very special case because she was born a monster. Now her origins hints towards her being an abnormal human, even though she was born from human parents. And as a child, she was as big as a giant child, which could be hinting towards something, and a lot of people have speculated that she has similar traits as the giant kids from Punk Hazard. Perhaps she was was some sort of gigantification experiment that failed. Now remember, the world government have been doing these experiments of this nature for over 100 years, and Big Mom falls within that timeline, so it is very possible. And the fact that her origin story is very intertwined with the giants and Albath, I think that makes this a lot more credible. Now Big Mom as a child had an insane level of strength where doing normal things would cause her to kill animals in one hit, and this even goes further, whereas when she goes into her enraged state, she was able to break blades with her bare skin, and her physical prowess was so strong that she was able to overpower giants at the age of 5. Granted, the giant that she killed was old, but regardless, that is something that no other 5-year-old is doing. And this natural defense is what makes Big Mom the force that she is. She's very similar to Kaido in that sense. And Oda hasn't gone in depth in what this ability or natural defense is. They call her an iron balloon, but something that we do know and something that I find to be very interesting is that this natural defense is linked to her mental state. When Big Mom's will is broken via Mother Caramel's picture, she's able to get hurt, which means that it's not necessarily her natural body that's emulating that effect, but an ability that she has that is able to turn off and on. And this ability could have ties to a form of armament haki that we're not aware of yet. Now we know there's people born with rare talents of haki, like Madame Shirley, who sees years into the future, and Isa, who had a very strong observation. Big Mom could very well fit in that criteria of people born with an advanced or rare form of haki, in this case armament haki. And I think that's what kind of separates Kaido's durability from Big Mom. Big Mom seems to be an ability, but Kaido stems from his natural body. But I do find it very interesting that it's dependent on her mental state. Again, something which could be tied to haki. Now Big Mom has the Soul fruit, which is a very versatile devil fruit as it allows the user to take souls and imbue them into inanimate objects. But as far as individual combat goes, Napoleon, Zeus, and Prometheus seems to be the main force. And Big Mom's fruit has a lot of conditions where she needs a person to be scared to take their soul. So against other top tiers, that ability is kind of useless. However, she can definitely use parts of her own soul to create more homies in those situations. But I haven't seen anything that makes it completely on another level, but it is possible if she's awakened with that fruit. We don't know what the awakening of her fruit can possibly do. And so with Big Mom, it's more so of a combination of multiple elements that makes her the monster that she is. Her iron skin being one of the more bigger ones. Now we move on to Kaido, a character that I think is currently the strongest Yonko, mainly because his whole thing is focused around being the strongest, and also the fact that he also has a world title. Now one of the key things about his strength is his supposed immortality. That is the foundation of why people acknowledge him to be the strongest creature. And Kaido, from what we know so far, has the best durability feats in the series, whereas he's able to jump from a sky island, landing face first with no visible damage in sight. He's also able to take on Gear 4th attacks and shrug it off like it was nothing. He was also someone known to challenge the other Yonkos and the Marines single-handedly. Now keyword here is single-handedly, and was able to survive all forms of execution. He's become so strong to the point that he's unable to die by any means. And apart from him being extremely durable, Kaido is physically the strongest character we've seen so far. And you'd also have to take into account how much stronger he becomes once he goes into this dragon hybrid form. And for Zoans, that's like their own version of Gear 4th. So if this guy is invulnerable in his base form, how much durable does he become once he does have dragon skills? So when it comes to Kaido, we know why he's strong, but I think it's more so of us wanting to know why he's unable to die, because his invulnerability is sort of separated from Big Mom's invulnerability, where it's classified differently. Not sure why, but it seems like Kaido has the more durable body. Now Big Mom and Kaido, they are very similar in terms of being outliers in the One Piece verse. They have very similar aspects in terms of their fighting ability. Now something that I've always found very interesting was that why do they call him a creature? They don't call him the strongest human or fishman or like the strongest demon like the Oars race. They call him a creature because they have no idea what he is, hence why they categorize him as a creature, which I find to be very strange because it seems like Kaido doesn't belong to a single race. And you have moments where Big Mom called Kaido a thing, so there's obviously more to him. But in terms of his origin story, we're still in the dark for the most part, but there's a lot of ideas that I do find very interesting. And one of the more prominent ones being that Kaido is a dragon that ate a demon devil fruit or the Oni Oni no Mi. Probably one one of the most unique ones I've heard, which could make a lot of sense as to why he's called a creature. And this would be a very interesting twist because the only case that we've seen in the series of an animal that ate a devil fruit is Chopper. So that would be very interesting. But obviously there's something more special about Kaido. Now there's also the whole thing about the previous owner of the Opi no Mi being the person that used the immortality surgery on Kaido, and that's why he's invincible. Now I personally don't think that's the case because of the definition of what Law's surgery does, but I do think that without a doubt that Law will be essential in taking down Kaido. Now people also think that this lifelong debt that Big Mom has with Kaido could be the reason of his immortality as well, and I think that's the most probable one out of all the other theories. People are saying that it could be related to his child, and I could see that as well. And finally we move on to Shanks. Now when it comes to Shanks is abnormal in a sense that he's too normal to be on the same stage as the other Yonkos. Now all the Yonkos that I've talked about so far are all individuals that exceed the norm. Blackbeard has 2 devil fruits with the possibility of getting a 3rd one. Big Mom, despite being human, had the ability to kill a giant at the age of 5 and has an unnatural defense system that seems to be invincible. And then you have Kaido, who is said to be immortal and incredibly hard to damage. And then you have the regular Joe amongst the Yonko, Shanks. And this in of itself raises a lot of questions. What does Shanks have that makes him comparable to the other Yonkos who are abnormalities in the verse? Now here and there I still see people talk about Shanks potentially having a devil fruit, but I feel like this would take away the hype surrounding his power. If Shanks was revealed to have a devil fruit, I think I would be more disappointed because it looks more impressive for Shanks to have no devil fruit ability but is still able to compete with the other Yonkos who aren't only abnormal at a base level but have devil fruits, and as well as being proficient Haki users. So essentially what has been implied by the story is that Shanks is only using Haki to match up against the powers of the other Yonkos. And I think this is basically telling us that Shanks has more than likely mastered all forms of Haki to its advanced levels. Now we've seen Katakuri's advanced observation that allows him to see into the future, but that could probably be one part of the advanced sphere of observation. Maybe there's variations that allows one to perceive time at a slower rate, or maybe there's even a form that allows one to go into a state that is akin to like, you know, ultra instinct, whereas it allows the user to dive into a mental state that allows them to perceive all things. With Shanks, I definitely think it's more, and perhaps he can even use several variations of observation at the same time. Now Conqueror's Haki is the power that I think ultimately puts him on the same level as the Yonkos, even though we haven't seen anything major from it. And apart from knocking fodder out, we know there's probably a higher level to Conquerors just like the other forms. And this really goes back to Marineford. When Luffy used Conqueror's Haki, not only were the Marines wary of Luffy after that, but also the Whitebeard pirates as well. They recognized his potential and started to take him more seriously. Even though it knocked out fodder, they were aware of what he was truly capable of, or his true potential to say. And I think what the Marines were so scared of at that point was the true potential of Conqueror's Haki, something that they've probably seen through Shanks. And so Advanced Conquerors seems to be an ability that is going to be very special, even more so than Devil Fruit abilities, because from what it seems like, it is the most difficult ability to obtain because it cannot be trained and can only be achieved by self-growth as stated by Rayleigh. Now granted, we do have a lot of Conqueror's Haki users in the show, however, the only individuals that I think has reached this level is Roger and Shanks, and possibly Garp. So it seems like only a small minority of characters who have Conquerors make it to this level. Even if you do have it, there's no guarantee that you will be able to use the advanced level. And I think Oda is being very careful showing it because it might make things that we're seeing now look pale in comparison. So right now, Oda is taking the steps there. We've seen advanced observation in Whole Cake Island. We've seen advanced armaments in Wano. And then I think in the next arc, maybe we get Shanks versus Blackbeard, and then we get advanced Conquerors with Shanks. But I'm definitely looking forward to what it can actually do and why people are so afraid of it. But comment down below what you guys think about the Yonko. Where do you guys rank the Yonkos in terms of individual strength, and what do you guys think makes them that powerful? And given that we're heading towards the end game of One Piece, I am actually looking forward to seeing what a full powered Yonko looks like and what they are truly capable of. I think that's something a lot of us would like to know. But like the video if you liked it, and subscribe for more One Piece content. It is Pharaoh, and I will see you folks later. Peace.